You're listening to the Bare Metal Cyber Prepcast, created to help you succeed in your Security Plus certification journey. Learn more at baremetalcyber.com, where additional prepcasts, books, and training materials await. Let's get started. Firewalls and security gateways serve as enforcement points that control the flow of traffic between different network zones. They represent the digital checkpoints of a system, monitoring what enters and leaves an environment based on defined policies. For example, a firewall at the perimeter of a corporate network might allow employees to access email servers while blocking unsolicited inbound traffic from the internet. These devices enforce boundaries that separate trusted internal systems from untrusted external networks. By doing so, they create a buffer zone where rules can be applied, preventing attackers from moving freely into sensitive environments while ensuring legitimate traffic continues unimpeded. Packet filtering is one of the oldest and simplest forms of firewall technology, yet it remains foundational. This method examines individual packets based on attributes such as source and destination IP addresses, port numbers, and protocols. If the packet matches an allowed rule, it passes; otherwise, it is blocked. While straightforward, packet filtering provides a powerful first layer of defense by restricting access to only necessary services. For instance, administrators may allow web traffic on port 443 but deny all other unsolicited inbound connections. Although it cannot analyze content, packet filtering offers a cost-effective mechanism for reducing the attack surface. Stateful inspection enhances basic packet filtering by tracking the state of network connections. Instead of examining each packet in isolation, the firewall maintains a table of active sessions, ensuring traffic aligns with expected patterns. This means that responses to legitimate requests are allowed, while unsolicited or malformed traffic is blocked. For example, if a user initiates an outbound web request, the stateful firewall records the connection and permits only the corresponding inbound replies. This prevents attackers from injecting arbitrary packets that mimic legitimate traffic. By understanding context, stateful inspection provides a smarter, more adaptive layer of filtering. Proxying and application layer gateways extend inspection deeper into traffic by acting as intermediaries. Unlike packet filters or stateful firewalls, proxies terminate connections and create new ones on behalf of clients. This allows them to inspect content at the application level, filtering not just by ports but also by payload. For example, an HTTP proxy can block specific URLs, strip malicious scripts, or enforce content restrictions. Application layer gateways operate similarly, focusing on specific protocols like FTP or SIP. By inserting themselves into the flow, these mechanisms provide richer visibility and control, but they also introduce more complexity and latency. Next-generation firewalls, NGFWs, expand the traditional firewall role by incorporating advanced capabilities. They are application-aware, meaning they can distinguish between traffic types even when they share the same port, such as differentiating between video streaming and file-sharing services. NGFWs can also integrate user identity, tying rules to individuals or groups rather than just IP addresses. Many include built-in intrusion prevention systems, IPS, and real-time threat intelligence feeds, enabling them to block emerging threats dynamically. For example, an NGFW might block access to a newly identified command and control server without waiting for manual rule updates. This evolution reflects the growing complexity of modern threats. Virtual firewalls provide similar capabilities as physical appliances, but are deployed within cloud and virtualized environments. They enforce security policies between virtual machines, cloud workloads, or containers, ensuring segmentation even in software-defined infrastructure. Unlike traditional hardware firewalls, virtual firewalls are highly scalable and can adapt to elastic environments where workloads spin up and down rapidly. For instance, a cloud provider may use virtual firewalls to isolate customer environments or enforce compliance requirements. Their flexibility makes them indispensable in hybrid and multi-cloud strategies, where traffic never leaves the virtual fabric, yet still requires enforcement and monitoring. Segmentation enforcement through firewall and gateway policy ensures that network zones remain distinct. Rather than treating the internal network as a flat space, firewalls define boundaries between sensitive areas like finance, HR, and general office segments. Interzone rules specify which systems can talk to each other, blocking unnecessary communications that attackers might exploit for lateral movement. For example, a rule might allow HR servers to query a database but prevent HR workstations from directly reaching production systems. This controlled segmentation reduces the attack surface and aligns access patterns with business needs, turning the firewall into a guardrail for organizational trust boundaries. The principle of a default deny stance reinforces strong firewall security. This approach blocks all traffic by default, requiring administrators to explicitly allow only the services and flows deemed necessary. For example, instead of leaving most ports open and attempting to block a few, administrators close everything and then open specific ports like 443 for HTTPS. While stricter, this philosophy minimizes surprises and ensures that nothing slips through without deliberate review. Explicit allow rules provide clarity and accountability, while default deny policies embody the idea that access should be earned, not assumed. This practice has become a cornerstone of modern firewall strategy. Network Address Translation (NAT) is a common function provided by firewalls and gateways, translating private IP addresses into public ones and vice versa. While NAT provides conservation of IPv4 addresses and adds a layer of obfuscation, it also complicates visibility. For instance, many internal devices may appear as a single external IP address, making it harder to trace activity back to an individual host. While NAT does not provide security on its own, its interaction with firewall policies must be carefully considered. Misconfigured NAT rules can unintentionally expose services or hinder monitoring, underscoring the need to understand its impact on network visibility. Effective firewall operation depends not only on rules but also on logging, alerting, and proper rule ordering. Firewalls process rules sequentially, meaning the order of entries determines the outcome. A misplaced rule can inadvertently allow or block traffic, creating serious vulnerabilities. Logging ensures that administrators can see which rules are triggered and detect anomalies, while alerts highlight urgent issues such as repeated denied access attempts. For example, an alert about numerous blocked connections to a database server might signal an attempted intrusion. Without logging and order discipline, firewalls may silently fail to enforce intended policies. Protecting the management plane of firewalls is as important as securing the traffic they filter. Administrative access through web interfaces, SSH, or APIs must be tightly controlled, as compromise here grants full control of the device. Best practices include restricting management interfaces to dedicated networks, requiring multi-factor authentication, and encrypting all sessions. For instance, a firewall should never expose its management portal to the public internet. Protecting this plane ensures that attackers cannot bypass filtering rules by simply reconfiguring the device. It also safeguards against insider misuse by enforcing accountability and least privilege on administrative tasks. Firewalls remain a primary layer of defense, serving as both boundary controllers and policy enforcers. They embody the principle of defense in depth by standing guard at choke points where trust boundaries converge. From packet filters to next-generation gateways, their role has evolved, but their purpose remains consistent: to regulate what comes in, what goes out, and under what conditions. Reinforcing firewall strategy with strong policies, effective management, and ongoing monitoring ensures they fulfill this mission. In practice, firewalls remain among the most visible and essential symbols of cybersecurity, embodying the idea that every network needs guarded borders. For more cyber-related content and books, please check out cyberauthor.me. Also, there are other prepcasts on cybersecurity and more at baremetalcyber.com. Application-aware rules represent one of the defining differences between traditional and next-generation firewalls. Whereas older firewalls primarily filtered traffic by port and protocol, application-aware devices can recognize the actual service or application regardless of which port it uses. For instance, some peer-to-peer file-sharing tools disguise themselves by running over port 80 or 443 to bypass simple filters. An application-aware firewall identifies the traffic pattern itself, not just the port, and can block the service even if it hides under common ports. This granularity gives administrators more precise control, ensuring policies reflect business intent rather than technical assumptions. Integration with identity and access systems further advances firewall capabilities by associating traffic with specific users or groups. Instead of applying rules only to IP addresses, policies can be tied to Active Directory or LDAP accounts, providing context about who is initiating the traffic. For example, the marketing department may be granted access to certain SaaS platforms, while finance is restricted to approved accounting services. This user-based control adds accountability and enhances incident investigations, as traffic can be attributed to individuals rather than anonymous hosts. It also aligns security policy more closely with organizational roles and responsibilities. SSL/TLS inspection brings powerful visibility but introduces significant trade-offs. By decrypting secure traffic, firewalls can inspect payloads for malicious code, data leakage, or policy violations. Without inspection, encrypted traffic effectively becomes a blind spot for defenders. However, the process increases latency, consumes resources, and raises privacy concerns because sensitive data is exposed within the inspection system. For example, a bank may need to balance the necessity of inspecting TLS traffic against strict regulations on handling customer financial data. Administrators must weigh these considerations carefully, applying inspections selectively to balance visibility, performance, and privacy obligations. High availability and clustering are critical to ensure firewalls and gateways do not themselves become points of failure. In redundant configurations, multiple devices synchronize policies and state information, allowing traffic to continue seamlessly if one unit fails. Clustering may also distribute load across devices, improving throughput while maintaining resilience. For example, in a hospital network, clustered firewalls ensure that even during maintenance or outages, critical systems like electronic health records remain accessible. These designs reflect the importance of continuity. The firewall must not only secure traffic, but also guarantee that services remain available during disruptions. The lifecycle of firewall rules mirrors broader IT governance processes. Rules begin with design, where requirements are gathered and justified. They move through testing to confirm they behave as intended, then deployment into production. Regular reviews ensure the rules remain relevant, while outdated or redundant rules are retired. Without such a life cycle, rule sets quickly become bloated, hard to manage, and prone to mistakes. For instance, a temporary exception created during a project may remain years later, silently exposing systems. Treating firewall policies as living entities, subject to governance and revision, ensures they remain both secure and efficient. Threat intelligence feeds and dynamic block lists enhance firewalls by allowing them to react to external data about emerging threats. Instead of relying only on static rules, a firewall may automatically block connections to IP addresses known to host malware or command and control servers. For example, during an outbreak of a new botnet, threat feeds can provide updated addresses, enabling immediate protection without manual intervention. These dynamic controls bring firewalls into alignment with the evolving threat landscape, ensuring defenses are not locked into outdated assumptions but instead adapt based on real-time intelligence. Logging retention and SIEM integration are essential for turning firewall data into actionable insight. Firewalls generate vast amounts of logs, recording both permitted and denied connections, rule matches, and anomalies. Retaining these logs provides a historical record for investigations, while integrating them into a SIEM platform allows correlation with other data sources. For instance, firewall logs showing repeated failed connection attempts may correlate with IDS alerts about brute force activity, confirming an active attack. Without retention and correlation, logs may provide raw data but little understanding. With them, Firewalls contribute to a holistic view of organizational security posture. Performance considerations and throughput planning ensure that firewalls can operate effectively under expected load. Each inspection step state tracking, application awareness, intrusion prevention adds overhead, reducing raw throughput. Organizations must size their firewalls not just for normal traffic, but also for peak conditions and potential attacks. For example, a firewall that handles everyday office traffic well may falter during a distributed denial of service (DDoS) attack. Proper planning involves benchmarking, scaling hardware or virtual instances, and monitoring utilization trends. Underestimating performance needs can turn firewalls into bottlenecks, undermining both usability and security at critical times. Microsegmentation gateways extend the firewall concept inside data centers and cloud environments, controlling east-west traffic between workloads. Traditional firewalls primarily guard north-south flows between internal and external networks. Microsegmentation instead enforces fine-grained policies between systems within the same environment, preventing lateral movement. For example, two application servers may exist in the same subnet but be prevented from talking directly to each other, limiting an attacker's ability to spread. This approach aligns with zero-trust principles, where every interaction is verified and controlled, regardless of whether it occurs across zones or within the same infrastructure. Change control and testing processes are vital when updating firewall policies, as mistakes can cause widespread outages. Introducing a new rule may inadvertently block critical services or allow unintended access. Formal change management requires documenting proposed rules, testing them in controlled environments, and scheduling deployment during maintenance windows. For instance, a change allowing a new SaaS application should be tested to confirm it does not expose broader access. Careful governance prevents accidental disruptions, ensuring that changes strengthen rather than weaken security, while maintaining the availability of business-critical services. Periodic rule audits and cleanup are necessary to maintain clarity and reduce risk. Over time, firewalls accumulate redundant, shadowed, or obsolete rules that complicate administration and create unintended exposures. An audit might reveal that multiple overlapping rules exist or that unused exceptions remain open. Regular cleanup simplifies the rule set, improves performance, and strengthens security by eliminating unnecessary permissions. For example, removing a rule that once allowed temporary vendor access prevents its potential misuse years later. Audits embody the principle that security is not only about adding protections but also about pruning and refining them. Properly configured firewalls and gateways embody the balance between access and protection. They enforce security policies consistently, reduce exposure to external and internal threats, and provide the visibility needed for ongoing monitoring. Their effectiveness depends on careful rule design, integration with other systems, and continuous governance. Rather than static barriers, they act as dynamic policy engines, adjusting to both business requirements and threat landscapes. By combining sound technical practices with disciplined management, firewalls and gateways remain indispensable tools, ensuring that access is not only permitted, but monitored, justified, and aligned with organizational trust boundaries. Thanks for tuning in to the Bare Metal Cyber Prepcast, your trusted source for cybersecurity news and insights. Remember to subscribe at baremetalcyber.com so you never miss an update. And visit cyberauthor.me for best-selling cybersecurity books that equip you with expert knowledge. Until next time, stay secure and stay vigilant.